Good afternoon. Welcome back to another live feed on Shaman's YouTube channel. Let's get into it. The continuation of the top 50 underrated producers in hip hop history. Book that I self produced years ago, a decade ago. Turned into a video series on my YouTube channel. I think it's a good idea. So we're gonna resume with number 6, man. Erick Sermon. Once you hit see the thumbnail, Erick Sermon from EPMD. Not only was he a great MC, he's underrated in that regard, but he also is underrated as a producer. I put him as the originator of the gangster funk funk sound, for his gangster funk sound. Um, Erick Sermon, along with Perry Smith, laid down the groundwork for the funk sound before Dr. Dre jumped on the bandwagon to use Parliament Funkadelic and George Clinton samples for the albums that they did. When you look at the EPMD albums, the funk samples, driven samples, were used by the group in EPMD. Erick Sermon produced songs for Keith Nuri, Redman, as well as 4321 by LL Cool J. So Sermon was always a great producer, but was not a big name producer. And that's right, he wasn't a big name guy for his producing. People know who he was, Erick Sermon, but he's not a big name. When you talk about the greatest producers, they're not gonna mention Erick Sermon for a reason. This dude can produce. You talk about making hits and crafting, the blueprint for 90s East Coast boom bap and West Coast G Funk. It was Erick Sermon. You look at his signature style. You know what I'm saying? Heavy funk and bass lines. He pioneered the integration of live sounding, heavy funk loops alongside thick, chunky bass lines, electro synths. The nod factor. Sermon didn't just sample, he treated every beat like a science experiment, flipping rare jazz and funk records into irresistible headlining grooves. He's versatile, heavily rooted in New York, but his signature sound so adaptable that across the East, West, and South, artists utilize his production to define their own eras. The Blueprint, the Green Eye Bandit catalog. When you look at his discography, thanks for hitting the like button. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. It spans decades and includes some of the biggest records in hip hop history. He has crafted iconic hits for an incredible roster of artists. EPMD, You Got to Chill, Strictly Business. So what you're saying. What the Album, which Sermon largely produced and helped engineer. Tonight's the Night, Whatever Man, What the Album, the most beautiful thing in the world. Thanks for the 9 people tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. How High by Method Man and Redman. He did LL Cool J featuring Method Man, Redman, DMX, Cannabis, 4321, one of the best posse cuts of all time. You know what I'm saying? This was a great catalog with this guy. Oh No, Most Def featuring Pharoah Monch and Nate Dogg. He did that. So this guy did a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. Thanks for 13 people tuning in, 7 people tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. This guy's definitely underrated. When we talk about the great producers, he's underrated in that regard. That's why I had to put him at number 6. He's overshadowed by DJ Premier, The RZA, Pete Rock, but this guy held his own in the 90s, man, with his, stuff that he was doing. With Def Squad, the Hit Squad, and he's overlooked. He's very versatile. That's why I had to put him in the top 10. At number 6. Talk about the great producers, especially in the 90s. You're really going to hear Erick Sermon's name 9 times out of 10. He produced the most beautiful thing in the world. Time for Some Action, Headbanger, Rampage. He produced all this stuff. Music, that was a great song. This guy did a lot of great stuff, man. Reservoir Dogs, he did that for Jay-Z off the Jay-Z's album. Nobody's tuning in. Don't understand why. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. Erick Sermon did a lot, man. A lot of great stuff. Erick Sermon is that guy, man. He's underrated. He's the heavyweight of the bass line, the taking the deep, chunky, live sounding funk loops. laying them over murky, rugged drums. Again, he's a G-Funk pioneer of the East Coast. He's one of the first producers to seamlessly pair modern hip hop with classic funk years before the West Coast sound dominated it. I'm saying, without question, before the West Coast took over that funk stuff, the G-Funk stuff, the G-Funk was in the East Coast. What Erick Sermon was doing. They was doing it first. I'm saying that's the difference maker right there. He had his own sound, the heavy bass and funk. He was one of the first to pair rugged hip hop drums with live sounding, looping funk grooves, laying the template for the G Funk before it dominated the West Coast. So you gotta give him his props. For he the one that made it happen for the West Coast. As far as the G Funk, heavy bass and funk. All the stuff that he was doing at night with EPMD, that's funk stuff. The G Funk stuff, that was before the West Coast jumped on it. All right, so that's basically it, man. Erick Sermon, underrated producer at number 6. Now we're gonna get into the top 5 at the bottom of the hour. Get into the top 5, the top 5 underrated producers in hip hop history. Almost close to the end from this book that I did a decade ago. The top 50 underrated producers in hip hop history. I'll be in number 5 at 4:30. Until then, talk to you soon.